Good morning, 5-star. Happy Thursday. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Hi, dog.
Hey, I got my green on, people.
You got your green on.
I got to get excited. This is NCAA ball time, right? So I had to be a part of this, Kim. And, you know, I've always said to you Michigan fans that are out there, you know, because they play ball today, those of you that are following basketball, I said it's really easy to be a Michigan fan, but it takes work, folks, to be a Spartan fan.
All right. All right.
Pretty excited about my green and the Spartans. So
I love green. Love green. You might not know this, but my son Nick played college basketball at Michigan State.
What?
I mean, baseball. Sorry, baseball.
State?
Yeah, Michigan State. Yeah. So we are green fans. There's no blue and gold in my house.
I love this family. I love this family.
Yep. So, all right, today we are going to talk about home inspections. I'd like to at least get through an overview today.
Yep.
We have 30 minutes to do that. So we really want to give everyone an overview of home inspections and why you should have them, what kinds you should have. And so I'm going to start with you first, Doug.
Yes.
Tell me, what's a home inspection?
What's a home inspection? Oh my gosh. Well, many of us have talked to home inspectors, hopefully, in our early real estate career, right? If we all haven't, we need to, right?
Yeah.
The importance of a home inspection. And again, when you're working with buyers today, again, as you're walking through houses, questions start to come up, right?
Yeah.
Again, by no means do I look like a home inspector. I don't really know what a home inspector looks like, but it's probably not me, okay? but the opening conversation that you're going to want to have with your buyers about how important it is to have that inspection, how important it is to have a trained professional, somebody that knows what they're looking for, be able to assist you after that offer is written and accepted. And again, we all know that the purchase agreements of today are built with 10 days that we have, that we can do as little or as many inspections as we want. And again, that's where for us, the importance of that on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm about a 10, 12, 15. I could be even a little higher than that, because people will ultimately ask you, Doug, how important is that?
Right.
Because, you know, I don't know. I've heard stories about home inspections and I'm not really all in. Tell me how important that is. And so I share with them my thoughts. Ultimately, it's your buyer's decision, as we all know, right? But again, the importance for me is you've got a 10-day window to do as many inspections, few or as many as you'd like, with the results of, again, then being able to take those back, evaluate if this is a smart purchase, negotiate things if you need to. But again, to answer the original question, Kim, that first 10 days and the importance of that inspection, again, your buyer's picking the inspector. They might ask you, you know, hey, do you have names and numbers of people that you recommend? Be happy to give those to you. You're not obligated to use them. But by no means, I mean, I want to reiterate to the buyers that I work with that that's a very important first step.
Right. So, hey, Marissa. Hey. So let me ask you a question. Should I have Uncle Joe do my home inspection? Why or why not?
Please, Lord, no. Unless Uncle Joe is a licensed home inspector that's going to give you a detailed report, absolutely not. And the reason why, how I explain it to my buyers is, you know, you want to have a full view and picture of what's going on with the house. This is different than having a contractor walk through a house, seeing what needs to be fixed, right? It's a very different view. And that's how I explain it to my buyers. Home inspectors, main goal and purpose and what they're trained to do and certified to do is to do a full breakdown of everything, mechanical, foundation, plumbing. They are supposed to look at everything and then give you a detailed report with the status of each of these items. It is a thorough investigation. right?
Yeah.
It is not Uncle Joe Schmo walking through the house going, oh, that's broken. Oh, that line there, that's all great. But that's not what you need as a buyer in order to make an informed decision about whether this is a good buy or not.
Yep. I'll tell people it's the best $300 you've ever spent.
Yes. How
Right?
long do they take? They take an hour, 3 hours?
It depends on the home inspector. So I weed out, so I, like Doug, like you said, I do recommend, I have about 4 or 5 inspectors that we will recommend to our buyers so that, you know, we're not pigeonholing them to only use one person. But I weed people out based on how long they take, honestly. You know, if you have a 2,000 square foot house, in my opinion, you should not be there for 2 hours. Not to have a thorough inspection. So for me, I think the sweet spot is like 3 or 4 hours.
Right, right. And so just to reiterate what Marissa touched on is the home inspector should be going through every part of that home. That means turning on the dishwasher, turning on the stove, making sure all of the elements work, running the microwave, looking at your roof. The home inspector that I use, even in the winter, since they can't get on the roof, they have a drone and they will send the drone up to take a look. Keep in mind in the winter, you can't turn on an air conditioner, right? You can't turn on a sprinkler system. So you want an inspector that will give you as much information as possible at the time. One note I want to make is, one is I have checklists that I've written to help agents remember some of the steps. And one of the things that I remind them of is in a normal home inspection, that does not include turning on the sprinklers, opening a pool. I have learned through experience, they don't check the chimney, right? So I always make notes that if you want these, they're extra, but once again, like Doug said, it is well worth the $300 or $400. Also, radon. Yeah, pest inspection. Radon might cost you $100 or $125, but I just had a unit put in for a buyer. It was $900.
Wow.
So once again, the investment to make sure your home is safe. We had a well and septic inspection. The well failed. We just got a $7,000 new well, and my buyer paid $1,700.
Okay.
So every inspection is always worth it, right?
Yep.
Right.
And you know something, what
else? You can't do it, you know?
Yeah.
What I'll say at the end of the inspection too, and again, I just reiterate the importance of these guys are home inspectors, not licensed electricians, or not licensed plumbers, HVAC people. If there's additional questions, possibly that you want to bring one of those professionals in. Let's say the inspector says, well, my goodness, the electrical's just all messed up in this house. You might want to have a licensed electrician follow up, do their own professional electrical inspection. And again, make sure you do it in that 10-day window so you have leverage. So you can go back then and say, look, had a home inspector in, had an electrician in, here's what we found, here's what we're willing to do.
Right.
So that's the importance. It goes back to what we just talked about, Kim, day one. How important is the home inspection? How important is that opening conversation with your buyer about that same home inspection? So I'm going to say on a scale of 1 to 10, right up here.
Yeah.
So what happens when we find the roof is old? Do we just keep going? What if we find maybe the foundation is a little bit unstable? Do we just accept that, or what do we do next?
I think, like Doug just said, you know, the home inspection is a great starting point. But the buyer investigation period is for any and all investigations. And I think it is good business practice for us as realtors, and it's our job to advise our buyers, is to advise for them to have someone who does specialize in that area to come take a look. Which is why also, you know, when you're explaining to buyers in the very beginning of the process, before you even go under contract, right, you're explaining the importance of the home inspection at the very beginning of the process, in addition to giving them a heads up that there may have to be some other things that in that 10 days that they may want someone to check out. So do not delay when you go under contract getting that home inspection scheduled. Because I'm sure a lot of us have probably experienced, you know, you tell the buyer, all right, we have 10 days to have this home inspection done, and they're just awaiting and awaiting and awaiting. And you're like, we need this home inspection done. You don't want to wait until the last minute because we don't know what's going to pop up on that thing. Right.
Right.
So you need to give yourself time and space to do full investigations.
Right. And if you do run short, you can ask for more time. It doesn't mean the seller will give it to you,
Right.
but it's always best, instead of saying, oh, and panicking and saying, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? I've got 1 day left. Ask for more time due to the roof, explain what the situation is, but always, always, always make sure your buyer knows that home. Doug?
Yeah. So let me say something about this day and age right now, where we're at today, March 2021.
22.
Oh, excuse me, 22. Come on, Doug, stay in the year, stay in the year. So the importance of this home inspection, when you're sitting down with your buyer and the buyer says, well, Doug, I really want to win. I really want this house. I can't even tell you how important this house is to me. I'm kind of thinking about waiving the home inspection, because I'm being told that that's one of the things that you can do in today's purchase agreements, right? To win.
Yeah.
And again, what do you think I say to them?
Well, what
Probably
I
not a good
specifically,
idea.
I don't do that. I don't
Yeah.
write that. I don't write waiving inspections. You can have a home inspection for informational purposes, right? But I don't advise that people waive them.
Well, I'm
Right.
with you. I am totally in your camp. I don't waive inspections. I feel like I'm talking to one of our other broker support team members, Tracy Johnson, who said, absolutely not waiving any inspections. So you have to really understand how you're going to have that conversation, how important it is to your buyer. And back to what you just said, early on in this conversation, Kim, the importance of having that conversation when you first start. And that sets the stage for where you're going to go, right? Doesn't it?
Yeah. So what I do is, and this is how I train agents, you never, 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 never tell your client to not get a home inspection, to not get a survey, to
Right.
waive inspections. You never advise that. Now, if they do it, that's up to them. But my answer to you is, yes, you need a home inspection. Yes, you need a survey. Yes, you need pests. Yes, you need radon, because we don't want to be liable if something happens later and they're going to say, well, my agent said I didn't need it.
Right.
So my answer is always yes. So let's take that a step further. Say my buyer wants to win. I had this last year, maybe once or twice. And they were confident. They had spent time in the home. They were okay with waiving inspections. So what are my next steps? So Mr. or Miss Buyer says, I want to waive it because I want to win. Then what do we do?
Have them sign that inspection waiver form and that hold harmless. That's what you do.
Yes. And the form that we are really encouraging agents to use always, often, is the pre-offer disclosure. It covers inspections. It covers surveys. It covers appraisal gap, escalation clauses. And you just want to make sure that your buyer understands, I'm for you. I am with you. And here's my toolbox. And if you want to use one of these tools, I'm with you. We're going to help you win. But I need you to understand exactly what your choices are, and that you want to make sure you're held harmless, that they decide to move forward with something that we definitely don't recommend, right?
And it is important that they sign that. The importance of the form that talks about the importance of that home inspection, to your point, Kim, because they will forget, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
you can remind them down the road, oh, by the way, we talked about this.
In the
didn't
heat
we?
of the moment.
And
Yes.
everybody's nodding
And-
yes. Everybody nods yes. We've talked
Yes.
about that. Oh, and by the way, you signed this saying that we're going to go
Yes.
forward knowing what you know. So
I always say there's a different attitude, a different perspective from the day we write the offer and we want to win, and the day we move into the home, right? Two totally different perspectives. So
great point.
I want to protect my buyer and have them love me, love the home, love their decision the day they get the keys.
Yeah.
And it's often very, very different. We're not talking about possession, but it's the same thing. I closed a transaction yesterday, and I asked the seller to put $2,000 in escrow for their 21 days. Yes, they got it for free, but I need to protect my buyer that if everything's great, we'll give that back to you. It's all good.
Yep.
Right.
But how many times we walked into a home and they've taken off the shelves, they've taken off the TV mount, and there's big holes, and the dog chewed the sliding door, right? So that pre-offer disclosure covers you. And
Yeah.
Greg Carlson always says, if we get called in, the more documentation you have, the stronger your case. And we really feel with that form, if you do get called in, that we will win.
And there's
Right.
enough tools in your toolbox. Kim,
Yes.
I've used that since you've said that.
Yeah.
That's the first thing we talk about is the tools in the toolbox. And
Right.
and again, ultimately, I realize it's the buyer's choice,
Yeah.
but it has to be an informed choice.
Yes.
Right.
And that's where
So-
what we're doing is so important.
So just so you know, so the agent community knows, we have done a video on home inspections with Drew Kaufman from House Masters. He graciously gave us his time, and when the new website and education platform comes out, that will be on there. And so we're hitting on some of these points, but we'll go into much more depth than that. So what we've talked about today is, what is a home inspection? What happens during a home inspection? How much time do they take? What do they look for, right? They're looking for, to give you an informed decision. It's not necessarily a honey-do list. And it
Right.
doesn't mean you're going to ask the seller. It's a used home, right? You may not be asking the seller because the dishwasher's not brand new that we want a new one, but you know what you're buying, right? I want you to know this home inside and out.
Exactly.
Hey, Marissa, just really quick, because you touched on something earlier on in this conversation about having a home inspection done for informational purposes only.
Yes.
When you share that with the seller as you're writing that offer, what does that sound like? What does that look like?
Mhm.
I know what I hear, but am I
Mhm.
really hearing what I should be hearing coming from the other agent?
Yes. So, I have learned through the deal doctors to be very specific about your language. And I actually think in our clause section
We do.
in .loop, we have the language. There are a few, there's about 2 or 3 of these that we have in the clause language. I copy and paste, okay? Because I'm not a lawyer and I don't want to make up any terminology. I want to make sure that my buyers are covered. And so I literally just take what our gracious team has made for us to equip us with situations like this, right? I take that language and I put it right on the purchase agreement. But one that I use, the one I use most often is that the buyer will have a home inspection per the purchase agreement. But the buyer will not ask the seller for repairs, will not negotiate the price, and will continue with the purchase as long as there are no structural or safety concerns.
Where do you put that?
That's what I use.
Where do you put that? You put that on a purchase agreement, on a separate addendum? Where does that go?
If I have space, I will put it, so on G-Car, we have an other provisions box. And so if I have space, depending on the other things that I'm writing with my offer, because nowadays you have to do all the things, right? So if I have space, I'll put it in that box. But if I've run out of space, I will put that language on a separate addendum.
Okay, all right, very good.
And I pulled up I went into .loop. If you go into .loop, you click on templates at the top, go all the way to the bottom left. There are clauses there.
Mhm.
And if you click Control F, which is for find, you can write in the word inspection, and it will tell you that there are 9 spots in this clause. I know sometimes finding clauses, we have
Yeah.
some limitations with the way .loop is structured. So do a search. And this is the clause that we recommend you put in. It says buyer has the right to perform any and all inspections and investigations by whomever and from whatever source they choose. If buyer finds any unacceptable results, oh, that's not the one I want. Well, let me finish that one. Within 10 days of acceptance, they can terminate the contract. That's not the one I want. Hang on, this is the next one. Buyer has elected to have inspections with full rights of stated contingency, but state that they will not ask for repairs or price reductions. So to go back to what Marissa said, if they do find a structural or something that's a deal breaker, we still have the right to terminate. It says full rights to the stated contingency. So that's the clause that you would use in there.
Yes.
We do have a question from Michelle. It says the new purchase agreement now has a blank line where it used to indicate 10 days. Doug, this is your purchase agreement, so I'm going to have you answer this if you would. Can we now change the number of days for the inspection window?
Man, you're catching me at a different, I don't know. I don't know. I should know that, shouldn't I?
Well, my answer is you can change anything.
Yeah.
In a purchase agreement as long as it's written in, right? So it has a blank line. We'll pull it up, and Michelle, I'll look at it just to verify with you, but you could still write in all inspections to be within 5 days, right, Doug? I mean,
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm old school and planned with 10 days, but you do see purchase agreements that people are, well, gosh, I'm going to do my inspections in 7 days or in 5 days. And so, you know, I'm still one of those old school guys saying that 10-day window, you can do a lot of things in 10 days, or you could do very few things in 10 days. Right. But it's important to, once that purchase agreement is signed, to make sure that those days get started. So anyways, I want to check on that too, because I want to get smarter with that.
Yeah, so I believe you can change anything, and I'm just pulling this up here. But if it's blank, you can put the number of days that you want in there. So we will follow up to just confirm that, but I'm just looking for it, and I don't know what question number it is, because
I'll reach out to Michelle today. Michelle, if you're there, we'll be talking later.
Yeah. So let's keep going. Okay, so what happens? We've got 5 minutes. What happens? Oh, I see it. Yes, number 15. All inspections and investigations will be completed within blank number days after just put in. If you want 3, you want 5, you want 7, you want 10, you want 12, right? So that's the answer. Okay, so 5 minutes left. What happens now? I've had this inspection, and now what do I do?
Mm-hmm. It depends on what you wrote.
Well, we haven't written anything yet. So
yeah.
So what do we do once I receive it? We review it, right, with our buyer.
That would be my first step, is to make sure. I would actually go back a step. I know that I feel like we had this kind of discussion in our Kalamazoo Connects Facebook page recently, but who goes to their home inspections, right? Who attends with the buyer? I personally, and I think Kim, you also said this in that group chat or group message, but I feel like it's important to attend that walkthrough with the buyer at the home inspection. Not that you have to set up camp for 4 hours, but if the home inspector is saying, I'm going to be going through the report and walking through the house with the buyer at X time, if you can be there. I know that we're all busy and you can't, be in 2 places at once, but if you can be there, go. If you have any reason why you can't be there, but you can maybe FaceTime, but you want to hear and see what they are hearing and seeing, because how can you advise?
Right. I'm going to take it one step further, in my opinion. Be there. Put it on your calendar, schedule it, be there. Right. I think it's good customer service. It shows your buyer you care.
Yep.
And like Marissa said, I want to know what's on that home inspection. Remember, some of our clients buy a home every 10 years.
Yeah.
They're looking to us as the professional, right?
Exactly.
Well, and I look at that the same way you two do. I'm not there. I don't do what Marissa just said was setting up camp. I always talk about the importance of the home inspection. You guys get a start. I'm going to show up at the end of the inspection when we're almost done. And because I want to hear from the inspector, just like you guys want to hear. And then if there's things that we want to learn and move forward and correct or ask for, that's the time to do that. So my practice, and I tell my clients that I'm typically not there during the inspection.
No.
I'm just going to get in the way. But I'm going to certainly be there at the end when it comes time to kind of bring it all back together. And again, most people appreciate the fact that you're going to be there, even if it's for 15 minutes or a half hour at the end of the inspection. So.
Yeah.
Well, I've actually had inspectors tell me that the buyers can come, but they prefer they don't follow them around. It actually slows them down, it distracts them, and you want them to be completely focused on your inspection. then I come in, if the inspection's done at 11, I come in or if it's done at 11, I'll come in for the last 30, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
The inspectors I use have a laptop there.
Yep.
They have a whole report. They take photos. We go through it. And when I leave that, I think my buyers have a good view of the home they're purchasing, and I feel like I understand it. So
Exactly.
as Marissa said, I can advise them, right?
What do you guys say to the agents that feel like it's a liability issue to attend the home inspection?
I've heard that. I have to say, I don't understand it. I don't. I just don't. Do you? I mean, so I've heard that out there, and I don't know why. I don't.
I've heard that, and I can't even address that because that's not something that, you know, I go beyond the importance of being there because you're their agent. You want to be there. I'm not quite sure the liability question. Maybe I should. Maybe
we could ask Gail.
We see the home inspection report, so I'm not sure what the difference would be between, you know, being there in person and hearing, and maybe it's the concern that you would be there with the home inspector and maybe saying things that you shouldn't. But when I attend that walkthrough, I don't talk because that's the buyer's time. The buyer just paid for this home inspection, right? And so the home inspector and the buyer are having conversation. The buyer is asking the home inspector questions. That is not my time. That's not my time to shine. That's not my time to that's not my time. I am there to listen and maybe to prompt, to ask questions if I have questions, or to prompt my buyer to ask questions if they don't know to, but I'm not there to speak.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
and
the interesting thing is too, you'll hear home inspectors ask the buyer at the end, hey, would you like me to email a copy of that to your agent?
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
And if you're the agent that feels that way, we'd love to hear why, or what we're not telling you you're wrong. I just don't understand that, but I'd love to hear another perspective. So if that is your practice, I'd love to have a conversation with you.
Sure.
As we wrap this up, the last thing that we're going to do is negotiate repairs. So I've got the report. We know what's going on in the home. What do we do next?
Well, for me personally, I always ask my buyer, because for me, I don't want to impose my own opinion or thoughts about what they should do. This is their home purchase, right? And you don't want them to feel pressured either way. So I kind of lead the discussion in terms of what are some things that I've reviewed the report, you've reviewed the report. What are some things that stood out to you? They tell me. And then I say, okay, is there anything that is of most concern? If you could whittle it down to your top 3 concerns, what are the things that are most concerning to you? And then I talk them through that way. And then I lay out for them their options. You know, if we didn't write anything in the original agreement about not negotiating, if we never wrote any of that in, you know, the world is the oyster at that point. So then I just kind of lay out their options. You can ask for closing cost help. You can ask the seller to fix the things. You can ask the seller to put money in escrow or to do a contractor check at closing. You can reduce the price. You give them those options, and then you let them pick what they want to do.
Yep.
Right. And one thing that I've heard out there, and it's not what the purchase agreement says, I hear, well, you can ask for environmental, structural, or safety issues. You can ask for anything. You can ask for them to clean the trim if that's what you want to do. So the correct answer is you can ask for anything, but the way that I advise my buyers is I have better negotiating power if you can change the GFCI in the bathroom, unless it needs to be done for the lender, right? What can you do? What can your dad help you with? What can your friend help you with? Let's focus on the major issues, because by whittling down all these $10 issues, I would rather focus on getting you the $900 Radon system that is very important and very expensive. So what can you do? And like Marissa said, I whittle it down. What can you do? Because that gives us better power in getting what we're asking for.
Right. Because if it's in a laundry list, they're not going to do it.
Yeah, they go.
And I hear you saying, which makes sense, Kim, we're putting it in perspective. You know, number one, there's no perfect house. right?
Right,
There's
right.
gonna be a whole bunch of stuff here, and you can pick this report apart if you want to.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And then you talk about the items that you're talking about, which make total sense, because especially if it's their first house, they don't even know what to ask for. Well, they got
Right,
this
right.
big laundry list of stuff. Oh my gosh. Am I just
Right.
gonna give it to them and say, there, go fix it?
And
No.
a tip that really helps is typically at the end of every report, there's a summary. Every inspection report, there's a summary, because it can be a little overwhelming, especially if it's your first home inspection. The last thing I would say is if you have questions, call the pro. That pro is the person who inspected that home, and say, what did you mean? I forgot. And just, even if you say, I'm new, or even I'm not new, say, no, especially maybe on a well and septic report that comes back. I had one that said, it was a weird language, I have to think of it, but it was saying that it wasn't rig accessible. And I'm like, what does that mean? So I just called up the inspector and said, can you help me out here?
Right.
And it was simple. It was, if the well needs fixed, the rig has to be 30 feet from the house. And if they had to bring a rig in, it was going to have to go through the overhang of the home.
Mm,
And
But
so,
but just the fact that you asked that question,
exactly.
Yeah.
you can ask those questions, and most agents go, well, gee, can I call the inspector? Can I ask more information about that?
always,
Yes, yes,
Heck,
yes.
yes, you can, please.
yes. Call your inspector, call your lender, call the pro that's helping you, because they're going to be the expert. And so, end of that story, we got a new well,
There you
almost
go.
$8,000. And I could have gone, oh, I don't know what that means, right?
Right.
And so just know home inspections are high priority.
Yes.
If you have any questions, call up one of us in your broker support team. We're always here to help. As we close out, any final thoughts, Doug or Marissa?
Man, we've
Have a
touched,
home inspection.
Have a home
have a home
inspection.
inspection. We've touched on a lot and asked lots of questions, because
Yes.
that's the time to do what we've all just talked about.
Right.
And
Yes.
and is it important? Absolutely, every time. I think that message is
Every
loud
time.
and clear, right? So
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for being here. We love serving our agent community. I
We do.
feel like this is a very, very valuable live stream for every agent to watch. If you have any questions, always reach out to us. We're glad to help you. Glad to lead you along in the process. And I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful, warm spring day. I brought the sunshine with me.
absolutely.
Thank you, Kim.
All right.
Thanks,
See you
Kim.
guys.
We need you. Go green.
I think I need to go back and get some more sunshine and bring it back.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay. See ya. Bye.
Bye.